Hello, classmates and Professor Garner. Good to see you guys again this week. Again, I'm Rick Hodge, and I was going to talk to you guys a little bit this week about the case study that I selected to study. The one I chose to look into was Menora versus Illinois High School Association. And some of the facts about this case: the Illinois High School Association forbids wearing any type of hat other than a 2-inch headband when you play the sport of basketball. A hat could fall off when playing. Someone can slip on this, and it's just basically a safety hazard for a person to wear anything on their head when they play the sport of basketball. Male Jews are required to cover their heads at all times, unless they are unconscious, unless they are immersed in water, unless they have danger of losing their life. Any of these will allow them to not cover their head, and playing the sport of basketball is not one of those reasons. The First Amendment states Congress shall make no law prohibiting the free exercise of religion. So that's kind of what the case is about, and some of the facts that they have. As far as arguments for both sides, they believe there is an infringement of religious freedom of Orthodox Jews because of this ruling that they have. Orthodox Jews that play basketball try to play with a yarmulke on the top of their head to cover the head. Jews want to use bobby pins to fasten the yarmulke into their hair so that it does not fall off. That way their head is still covered, and yet it's not as much of a safety issue. The association claims that bobby pins are not a secure enough method to fasten onto their head. And so they believe that the bobby pins is not a strong enough way to keep it on the head throughout the course of a game. The association forbids wearing yarmulkes during play for that reason, and 2 Jewish high schools in Chicago contend that it forces the student athletes to choose between religion and playing basketball. The First Amendment claims you cannot make a law prohibiting religion. However, language does not forbid a regulation in place for safety. Claim is not against any religious group or prohibit any religious observances or anything along those lines. They claim it is just something that it's not so much the yarmulke or the covering the head that the association claims. It's still the safety factor that can fall off. There is a comparison of 2 burdens here in this case, okay? And one of them is a person is asking for government benefit because the high schools, the public high schools, even the private schools in Illinois also abide by the same type of rules. And so therefore, they believe that it is a government benefit being denied for observing religion. And then the second burden, which is government extending a benefit to someone that fails to meet the usual requirements for eligibility. And to be eligible, you cannot wear this on your head for safety reasons. So that's basically what the dilemma is in this case that we are looking at here. Court findings. What did the court decide? Well, first of all, the district court found the association is an arm of the state. It upheld the suit, stating it should not make rules that violate the exercise of freedom of worship. However, the Court of Appeals 7th Circuit argued that the plaintiffs did not prove any violation of the First Amendment right, but did suggest they should work with the defendant. And by working with the defendant, they need to find a more secure way to cover the head while playing basketball. And so what they found was it wasn't the yarmulke that was the issue here. They were still allowing Jews to play. They were still allowing head coverings and for them to play. It was just the fact they didn't find the bobby pins was the reasoning that they could play with that on their head. And that's kind of what it came down to. If Jews required basketball players to wear a yarmulke attached with bobby pins, then there would be a conflict with the state's interest in safety. But it doesn't. That's not the issue. So the plaintiffs need to find a way to prevent the head covering from falling off. They said it could be anything from putting a chin strap on there to keep it on, or sewing the yarmulke onto the headband to make sure it stays on a little bit more secure. But those were just random suggestions that they gave, and they were not saying those are things that would be allowed with the headbands. Bobby pins do not implicate First Amendment values, is what they find. They found other types of likenesses with this, meaning there are times where girls will play with barrettes in their hair. There's a chance one of them could fall out the floor and be a safety issue. They fought also that eyeglasses being worn can come off your face and fall on the ground. But I think the courts ruled that those are even more secure. The barrettes or the eyeglasses with the strap on the back would be more secure and safe than what they're having as far as the yarmulkes with just bobby pins. The plaintiffs failed to make out a case, and they have no constitutional right to wear yarmulkes insecurely fastened by bobby pins, and therefore cannot complain if the association refuses because of the safety reasons that they came up with. Now, the district court proposed to the association that when the Orthodox Jews come up with a plan, they need to strongly look at this to make sure it's okay and meets their safety guidelines, because if they continue to refuse anything they come up with, they could in the future see if it does not comply with Jewish law, that it could meet problems that they have, and the association could have the rule refused against them, and the plaintiffs might be able to view this as religious problems and not having religious freedom for what they do. And so the courts kind of told the association that when they do come up with something, take a strong look at it. Otherwise, it might come back to court and they may not like the decision that they come up with. So basically what the court said was, you guys need to work together and figure something out that's a little more safe for them to wear with the yarmulkes. But the implications for athletic activities administrators that we can learn from this, the biggest thing that the case study talked about was conflicting claims of church versus state are some of the most bitter and dividing controversies in our society and also in our history. And so we kind of got to learn from that. And as an athletic director, what you're kind of looking at is church versus state can get very difficult very quickly when you're in the courts. Athletic directors need to make sure they are enforcing the rules of the state associations, know the rules, and know what they are doing, because what happens is as our country continues to get more diverse, there's going to be more challenges to these rules. And as you can see with this one was a religious issue. And what we're looking at here is there's going to be a lot of groups that come forth and say they're being discriminated against. Many will infringe on religious freedoms. And so we have to make sure we're aware of all of that. The AD should know the rules of the association, but make sure they are not infringing on a student's First Amendment right, and be there to allow them to understand this and understand what the rules that they have for our student athletes as they move forward, and what rights that they do have. So it was a very interesting case. Once again, I encourage you to look into it a little bit deeper if you have the time. And thank you for listening to me, and I'll see you at the next presentation that I do. Goodbye.